All right, let's dive into a real puzzle. On one hand, you've got Vietnam, an economy that's just been exploding with growth. But on the other, a massive, and I mean massive, disconnect between that boom and what the workforce can actually do. So, what's going on here? And, more importantly, could a simple data driven fix be the key to it all?
You know, this quote from Vietnam News pretty much says it all, doesn't it? A huge gap between university curricula and real job requirements. This isn't some new problem either. For years, we've heard businesses and the media sounding this exact alarm. What kids are learning in school just isn't what the real world needs.
Okay, to really get why this skills gap is such a big deal, you have to see this number 3,400%. That's how much Vietnam's GDP grew between 1990 and 2019. I mean, let that sink in. That's faster than China grew in the same period. It is an absolutely insane, incredible success story. But, and there's always a but, right? This economic rocket ship is hitting a major wall. It's a huge obstacle that could really slow things down. And that obstacle? It's the quality of its people, its human capital. The workforce just isn't keeping pace with the economy's needs. And look, this isn't some theoretical problem you'd read about in a textbook. This is hitting businesses, and hard. We're talking about giants like Samsung and Intel. They're right there on the ground, and they're not happy with the skills they're seeing from new graduates. It's gotten so bad that some IT companies are literally having to say no to new projects. Why? They just can't find enough people who can do the work. And if you want a number that just stops you in your tracks, here it is, 5%. A recent study found that only 5% of employers believe that Vietnam's universities are actually preparing students for the real world. Just 5. I mean, can you imagine? That is a massive vote of no confidence in the entire higher ed system.
So, how in the world do you even begin to fix a problem that big? Well, the answer might just lie in technology. Let's talk about something called learning analytics, a data-driven approach that's really starting to shake up education everywhere.
So what is this learning analytics thing, or LA for short? Well, think about all the digital footprints a student leaves when they're learning online. Every click, every download, every submission. LA is just the process of gathering all that data and analyzing it to find useful patterns. The goal? To use those insights to actually make the whole educational process better for everyone.
Now, for students, this is a game changer. Imagine having a personal dashboard that shows you exactly how you're doing in a course, even comparing your progress to the class average. You could get little nudges on your phone, like, hey, this assignment is really important for your final grade, don't forget it. It's like having a personal coach giving you feedback without adding any extra work for your professor. Pretty cool, right? And it's not just for students. For teachers, this is amazing. Picture this. A professor is about to start class, they pull up a dashboard, and, oh, only 20% of the students did the assigned reading. Okay, plan B. They can change their lesson right then and there. And get this, the data can get so good you can predict a student's final grade just based on whether they've downloaded the assignment brief. It means teachers can step in and help before someone starts to struggle, not after.
Okay, so learning analytics sounds like a silver bullet for Vietnam's skills gap, right? I mean, it seems perfect. But there's a catch. A really big one. There's a foundational piece missing from the puzzle, and without it, none of this can even get off the ground.
Here's the thing. All this amazing analysis, it needs data. Lots of data. And that data comes from something called a learning management system, or an LMS. That's the online hub for a course, where you find your syllabus, download readings, submit your work. Trying to do learning analytics without an LMS, it's like trying to track your fitness with a health app, but you don't own a smartwatch or a phone. You just have nothing to analyze. And that brings us right to the heart of the matter. The big question this research wanted to answer was how many public universities in Vietnam are actually using these systems. You'd think it would be pretty common, right? Well, the answer might just shock you.
So the researchers looked at 17 public universities in Hanoi, and what they found was just, wow. 58% of them use no learning management system at all. Let me say that again. The majority don't have one. The basic foundation you need for any of this data stuff, it's just not there.
But wait, it actually gets worse. So for the universities that are using something, the top choice is Google Classroom. And look, Google Classroom is great for what it is, but it's not a full-blown LMS. It just doesn't give you the deep data you need for serious learning analytics. It wasn't designed for that. So that small percentage of schools that have something,
even they aren't really ready.
So you're probably thinking, okay, so that 58% without an LMS, they must be planning to get one soon, right? Well, not so fast. Of that group, almost half, 47%, said they have zero plans to implement one. No plans at all. They have no intention of building this basic digital foundation.
And the researchers themselves were pretty blunt about it. They wrote, and I'm quoting here, "It is worrying indeed that so many faculties have no intention of implementing an LMS of any type over any time frame." You hear that? It's not that they're just a little behind the curve. For many, it seems like there's a real resistance to adopting the tools they need for a modern education. So yeah, the situation looks pretty tough. But the good news is, this research doesn't just point out the problem. It actually gives a really clear, step-by-step recommendation for how Vietnam can get back on track and start to bridge this skills gap.
And it's basically a two-step plan. Step 1, every single university needs to get a real LMS. That's the baseline. It's not even up for debate. And step 2, the researchers argue that everyone should standardize on a single specific platform. And that platform is Moodle. So why Moodle specifically? Well, a few big reasons. First, it's free and open source, which is obviously a huge deal. But more importantly, it gives you full access to all the raw data, which you don't get with closed systems. Plus, the few universities in Vietnam that are already dabbling in this stuff, they use Moodle. And it's the main platform for this kind of research all over the world. So Vietnam could immediately plug into a global network of experts. And really, this all boils down to a fundamental choice for Vietnam's future. It's like a fork in the road. Down one path, you've got these limited systems that hold you back, that restrict research, and that don't really help students all that much. And down the other path, you have open systems that unlock the incredible power of learning analytics, that let researchers across the country work together, and that give students the personalized support they desperately need. Which leaves us with a pretty wild question. When you think about it, can a single piece of software really unlock a nation's potential? Well, when that software holds the key to the data you need to sync up your education system with your booming economy, the answer just might be yes. The tool exists. For Vietnam, the real challenge now isn't about technology. It's about the will to make it happen.